page 45, please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second and concluding day of this weekend retreat. It's really been a very wonderful experience for all of us. Swami Sarvasthananda from our center in Bourne End, that's just outside of London, has given a wonderful retreat so far, and we're looking forward to this morning. I'll just briefly go through the schedule. So this is session 4. These are all different aspects of Upāsanā. This is its importance in the Ramakrishna movement. Then we'll have a break for a half hour, 10:45 to 11:15. Then we'll have a panel discussion with Dr. Jeffrey Long and Swamiji. And then lunch, 12:30 to 1:30. Then there'll be 45 minutes for, again, devotional singing, whoever would like to participate in that. And there'll be a concluding session, 2:15 to 3 o'clock. And that'll be just if Maharaj wants to tie things up with some remarks, and then we'll have question and answer. You can write them down, and the three Swamis will participate in that. Then we have another vocal music concert, P.O. Mukherjee, the very well-known and accomplished singer. She'll be singing mostly Hindi and Bengali bhajans. So that'll be from 3 o'clock to 4, and then vote of thanks and the group photo. So I will now request Maharaj to come and lead this session for us.
Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Pada Padme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. My humble prostrations to the holy trio of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ma Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. Revered Swami Atmagyananandji Maharaj, Revered Swami Baswatanandji Maharaj, Dr. Jeffrey Long, and all the devotees of this wonderful center. It has been a great pleasure and privilege to participate in this 2-day retreat. Especially enjoy the wonderful ambience because of the presence of the Vigraha of Sri Ramakrishna and the presence of so many devotees who have been doing Upāsanā in their own way. In fact, whatever we do in all the centers of the Ramakrishna order is Upāsanā. Whether we serve, whether we do any kind of activity centered around Sri Ramakrishna, who is the inspirer of this great movement, it is nothing but Upāsanā. As we discussed in the third theme, the harmony of 4 yogas. So, as Swami Vivekananda once said, this order, this holy order, and all the centers that are part of it, they are the very body, the gross body of Sri Ramakrishna. He lives in the order, and serving the order in any humble way, in any way, is an Upāsanā, a great Upāsanā, and it is serving Sri Ramakrishna himself. So, Swami Vivekananda established this order in the name of his master, though he was reluctant to start a separate sect, as he was always afraid that any organization, any sect, tends to be sectarian in approach, becomes rather exclusive. But He started this order in his master's name, whose life, which has inspired this movement, was as vast as the sky, in his own words, but at the same time as intense and as deep as the deepest ocean. It's a rare combination. Swamiji said that whenever any movement assumes intensity, it has depth, but it lacks the vastness or the broad or the universal ideas that can make it all-inclusive. On the other hand, if you try to be all-inclusive, then you lose intensity. So there is a danger that intensity or depth may lead to fanaticism, depth in one particular ideology, but at the same time, it will lead to fanaticism. But when your movement is as broad and as inclusive as the vast sky, there is a chance that it may lose its depth or intensity. But he says Sri Ramakrishna's personality was a unique one. On one hand, it was as deep as the ocean. Whatever he did, all the upasanas that he practiced, and he practiced almost all the upasanas that were extant at that time. And he did it with an intensity, with as much depth as any movement, intense movement, which often leads to fanaticism, and also with the same broad spirit. So that is why Swami Vivekananda said, Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine. He came to establish different religions. Different religions means to give intensity, at the same time infuse broad universal ideas which are which should be part and parcel of any sect which is truly spiritual, any sect that has come down to us. So we saw how the idea of Upāsanā evolved. In the first session, we began with the basic idea of Swamiji, which he expressed to Sister Nivedita, where he says, civilization, which of course at an individual level is our own progress, spiritual progress, is the progressive reading of spirit into matter. And that has been the history of all great spiritual movements, inspired by any prophet, any teacher in any part of the world. So the progressive reading of spirit into matter has been the core philosophy of all upasanas. They may differ in their content, they may differ in their process, but the goal is same. Somehow, using all the faculties that a human being possesses, to see that spirit governs matter, not the other way around. So that was the theme of the first session. And in the second session, with special reference to rituals which are part of every religion or formal worship, and the technique of meditation, prayer, contemplation, evolved by all the different orders. We just had a glimpse of what it means, how do they support each other, complement each other. Worship leads to meditation. So it evolves. So that was the second theme. And the third theme, which was very dear, which inspired the monogram here, Swami Vivekananda's dearest theme, which he saw embodied, not just lived by his master, he saw it embodied in his own master, Sri Ramakrishna, the harmony of 4 yogas. Now we have come to the last session. What is Upāsanā as defined, as is normally practiced in the Ramakrishna order? You all know how much importance Acharya Shankara gave to a Guru Parampara or a authentic tradition, a succession of disciples or followers of a particular ideology to transmit knowledge. That's the knowledge that is acquired or transmitted from Guru to the disciple in a very authentic way, a spiritual tradition. So that is one of the core principles of the Ramakrishna order. It is known as spiritual initiation or mantra diksha. But that is, as I said, though it is a core principle, it's a small part of the entire Upāsanā which is going on in the Ramakrishna order, the body of which is the gross body of Sri Ramakrishna. He exists in a subtle way, inspiring all of us. But at the same time, this movement offers an opportunity to all who want to belong to this authentic spiritual tradition, lived and initiated by Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ma Sharda Devi and Swami Vivekananda and his successive disciples who followed them. To understand that, we have already discussed how the 4 yogas practiced in our individual lives. We try to harmonize all these 4 yogas in our individual lives. But Swami Vivekananda said there is another type of harmony which can achieve this. If you have a sense of belonging to the Ramakrishna order, then it affords a wonderful opportunity to all its adherents or followers to practice individually the yoga that they like best. Predominantly, it may be karma yoga, it may be jnana yoga, contributing in different ways. And in the process, and that is applicable not only to the monks and the volunteers here, but also the lay devotees who who support this entire Ramakrishna order or this movement. So each one, no matter how little, contributes in his own way through his own yoga, one of the 4 yogas, to enable that harmony in the collective life of the Ramakrishna movement or order. That is another way of harmonizing these 4 yogas. Since each one of us, Swamiji wished that we have had these 4 faculties. 4 faculties of psychological faculties or faculties of the mind, equally developed. He wished that each one of us had this harmony at the individual level. But if it is not possible, collectively we can do the same and the effect is same. Because one of the main features or main important features of the Ramakrishna order, that it enables an opportunity to all the adherents or all the followers to contribute to this great harmony of the 4 yogas. So now we will try to discuss something about what Ramakrishna movement or what Upāsanā is like in the Ramakrishna order, without going too much into the specifics, because that is a topic which is normally discussed by the Guru who is authorized to give mantra diksha or spiritual initiation, and the disciple. There may be minor variations, but the same authentic tradition started by Sri Ramakrishna has come down to us in its succession of disciples. The presidents of the order are the representatives of this great Guru Parampara. But one thing has to be kept in mind, which each one of the Gurus who belong to this order is to constantly emphasize. That's why we say, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. We don't utter the name of Sri Ramakrishna. We say Guru Maharaj. That has been a tradition right from the beginning. He is the guru of this whole order. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel that Satchidananda alone can be the guru. So it is in that spirit we view the Guru Parampara. He is the guru, he is the primal guru. And everything that we do is dedicated to him, dedicated to the wonderful methodology or Upāsanā. He not only practiced individually, but also embodied as a synthetic Upāsanā in his own life. And obviously, the Upāsanā Paddhati, the mantra diksha or spiritual initiation tradition that has been started by himself and through Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda and other great direct disciples and the presidents of the order is coming down to us just as he had started it or as he had wished that it should continue. So everything was defined, predefined. It's a very authentic tradition and we have to go to the source books. As Swami Vivekananda once remarked in London, that if you want to understand Christianity, then go back to Christ. So the nearer we are to the source books, the source of inspiration, in this case Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ma Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda and the direct disciples, who are authentic representatives of the great tradition based on the life and teachings of this great Avatara Varishta, as Sri Ramakrishna said, who revitalized. He did not come to start a different sect, as Swamiji said. In a world that was teeming with so many sects. And in fact, when he came in his book, in his small booklet, Sri Ramakrishna, O Hindu Dharma of Sri Ramakrishna. He mentions this. When the whole of India, which was a melting pot for all the different religious traditions, all sects, there was a veritable inferno because of this exclusive nature of each sect. They were quarreling with each other. It was a literal inferno. That fire, to quench that fire, Sri Ramakrishna came. That is one of the primary reasons why Sri Ramakrishna had to incarnate. That was one primary reason, that to see where the core, the real spiritual core, spiritual values lie in each of these different sects, without starting an independent sect himself. Sri Ramakrishna tried to revitalize all the already existing spiritual paths by focusing more on the core values of each path. So as Swamiji says, a Hindu becomes a better Hindu, a Christian becomes a better Christian. So that is the great tradition. It's a very difficult tradition, how to be all-inclusive and yet not lose the depths, lose the depth of intensity that each movement or each sectarian movement based on different spiritual personalities has flourished. When there is depth of intensity, it spreads fast, no doubt. But there is a danger that it leads to some kind of fanaticism. Swamiji saw that how to have a movement which can combine these both the intensity as well as the all-inclusive universal approach, embracing all different sects and accepting them, not just tolerating them, as he said in the Parliament of Religions, but accepting all religions as valid paths. That's a very difficult task. And Sri Ramakrishna did it quietly. As Swamiji said, his room in Dakshineshwar was a veritable parliament of religions. He attended it much later, but his room was a laboratory where a parliament of religions was held every day. People from different sects, forgetting their differences. You see how the Brahmos, the opposing parties, the two Brahmo Samaj leaders used to come. They used to quarrel outside, but when they came to Sri Ramakrishna's room, they had no problems. Vaishnavas came, Shaktas came, the non-believers came like Mahendra Lal Sarkar, atheists came. Nobody had any problem with Sri Ramakrishna. He accepted all. That is one of the biggest upasanas in a general way that we have to keep in mind when we talk of the Ramakrishna order or the upasana as practiced in the Ramakrishna order. Every member, he should reflect this wonderful idea which has inspired this order. That is one thing. And second thing, which Sri Ramakrishna, which Swami Vivekananda mentions in this small booklet, is that the wonderful all-inclusive love of Sri Ramakrishna embraced everyone, not only embraced everyone, but he made religion accessible to all. That is another unique feature of the Ramakrishna movement, wherever it is. And we have to take care to see that this ideal, this accessibility of no privileges, he came to destroy all privileges. That is why he says, Swami Vivekananda makes a very significant remark. Other disciples might not have read. He says, Sri Ramakrishna intentionally discarded formal learning in this incarnation. In this particular incarnation, he deliberately discarded formal. Not that it was by chance that he did not have a chance to have formal learning. Just to show how the highest spiritual truths are revealed in the purified mind of its aspirants. Any aspirant, the basic condition of spiritual realization, just to remove the doubts, if they ever existed in anybody's mind, that formal learning and spiritual realization are somewhat connected. To dispel that, he says he deliberately discarded formal learning, and to show how in the minds of the ancient rishis, truths, the higher truth, the intuitive truth, the supersensuous truths, which constitute spirituality, revealed themselves in the minds of those rishis spontaneously. It's not a trained academic spiritual practice which has been academically supported or through learning that these truths are revealed. It can be revealed, and that makes it accessible to all. As Maharaj rightly mentioned yesterday, one of the important paths, upasanas, which Sri Ramakrishna, if you see the gospel, Maharaj rightly mentioned yesterday, that the path of prayer, it's a universal method. Every religion, especially the Semitic religions, they give so much of importance to prayer. When it intensifies, it becomes prayer of the heart, an unceasing prayer of the heart which feels the presence of the divine within. That is a universal sadhana. You don't need any kind of preparation or basic qualification. You need not even be a adhikari. It is this practice which inspired, before the gurus came and taught different upasanas, that was the second phase of his life. But if you see the biography, the wonderful biography, that's why I insist that to know the Ramakrishna order, one has to go back to the source books, just as to know what Christianity is. You don't go to the churches, you go back to Christ. That way, we'll be nearer to the source and understand what Upāsanā is according to the words of Sri Ramakrishna. What did he say in the gospel? What did Swami Swahananda write in this exhaustive biography, one of the best biographies of any incarnation ever written? So, these authentic books plus the lives of Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, the Gospel, Swami Vivekananda's 4 yogas, his biography, and also 2 important books of the first 2 presidents of the Ramakrishna order. One of them was a spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna, The Eternal Companion, which has now been, I think, a guide to spiritual life. It has been freshly Dharma Prasange Swami Brahmananda. So there are some intricate techniques or hints on what Upāsanā is like in these books. And then there is another very important book by the second president of the Ramakrishna order, Mahapurush Maharaj or Swami Shivananda. That's a very important source book for seekers of God. In fact, when we had our initiation, that was one of the requirements. It was not enough to just read, as they do now, just the 3 biographies, short biographies. We do not even insist on the bigger biography, that is Great Master or the other. But it is very imperative, it is very much necessary to understand what Upāsanā is without reading these source books, without knowing who our ideal is, in a very authentic way. There are so many books written on Sri Ramakrishna. Not all of them are equally authentic. It was reserved for Swami Shardananji to write this great book. So you see the chapter on sadhana, when he discusses Sri Ramakrishna's role or the role model he was for all the sadhakas and upasakas of the future, he discusses what sadhana is. To understand the sadhak bhava of Sri Ramakrishna, which is the source of our upasana or in the Ramakrishna order, you have to know what sadhana is. From a historical perspective, he has summarized. It is such a wonderful summary. What is sadhana? Who is a sadhaka? What is the goal of sadhana or upasana? And how Sri Ramakrishna fulfilled and was an excellent role model for all of us to understand what upasana is. So, in a general way, to understand the life and message of Sri Ramakrishna, Srima Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda, in as much depth as possible, as deeply as possible, we have to read these books to get a clear idea, authentic idea of the authentic spiritual tradition or upasana that has come down to us. In a general way, the 4 yogas, how we can, as members of the Ramakrishna order or followers of the Ramakrishna movement, visiting our centers, we can contribute in our own humble way. But for that we have to know these basic things, because they shed light upon the eternal. No doubt Vedas are our scriptures. Swami Vivekananda always emphasized the eternal ideas, but the infinite searchlight that Sri Ramakrishna shed upon the truths of these Vedas are essential to understand it in the present age. He says it is impossible to know the intricate truths, the core values of our scriptures, the Vedas, which has inspired all our spiritual literature, unless we study it in the light that Sri Ramakrishna's own life and teachings have shed upon that. That makes it very important, not in a very sectarian way, but it is very important that to understand the core values, core spiritual values, so that we will not be misguided. So that is an essential part of our upasana in a general way, reading the lives and messages, and especially the 4 yogas of Swami Vivekananda, which inspired this movement. That's why this logo represents that. We wanted to make sure that this harmony of all human energies form the core of the spiritual movement he started in the name of his master. So 4 yogas and also the great tradition of mantra diksha. Now, this idea of spiritual initiation, as Sri Ramakrishna says in his gospel, the need for a guru and also this great tradition of spiritual initiation, which is not an insignificant part of the Ramakrishna order. It's not just we become members by taking mantra diksha. If we don't take it seriously, then it doesn't serve the purpose. It is an initiation into the Ramakrishna Upāsanā. A Upāsanā which has been evolved, a synthetic Upāsanā which has been evolved, inspired by Sri Ramakrishna himself, Holy Mother, and all the direct disciples who have tried to pass it down till the present day. It is not only brief, but it is a very authentic, focusing only on the core values. So all the parts or all the different aspects of this Upāsanā, which are usually, that is the tradition now, earlier it was not there, there is a very small booklet, especially when President Maharaj and Vice President Maharaj, they initiate novices or spiritual aspirants on a new path. It is like a second birth. We have a birth, physical birth. This is a spiritual birth. As in the ancient days, when Gayatri Mantra was given, in fact, all the initiations or all the mantras, they symbolize one thing, removal of ignorance and acquiring knowledge. That's the goal, all removal of ignorance by the light of spiritual knowledge. That's the core idea behind all upasanas, all yogas. So, this tradition which was started in that is why Sri Ramakrishna said, the whole Vedas merge into Gayatri and Gayatri merges into Om. So, we came to the particular, from particulars we came to the general, as Swamiji says, generalization is the rule. So, this Gayatri Mantra, anybody who was invested with this Gayatri Mantra, was known as Dvija. It's not because Dvija became to be associated with only Brahmins. That is rather unfortunate. Swamiji himself was confused why this great tradition of Gayatri Mantra, handing the Gayatri Mantra at a tender age of 6 to 8, was denied to women and denied to the other castes. It's a great sad part of Indian history. Why should it be denied? Spiritual knowledge is the privilege of all of us. Sri Ramakrishna came to remove that privilege. It's not the exclusive privilege of a particular caste or a particular gender. So the Dvija, everybody has a right to be born into spiritual life. And it was mandatory in those days. Whether people took it seriously or not, this giving of Gayatri Mantra, and along with the secular education, starting a spiritual life in that early age. We don't start, we start secular education. Nowadays, at the age of 3, we push these children into academic institutes. But there is a privilege. In those days, it's a privilege to be born again into spiritual life, so that spiritual education goes side by side with the secular education, which of course is necessary for earning a living. But at the same time, it was mandatory, and mandatory for all. Somehow it became the privilege of the few, and that was one of the reasons of India's downfall, as Swamiji says, this age of exclusive privileges. So Sri Ramakrishna, one of the reasons why he came, another reason why he came in this Hinduism and Sri Ramakrishna, he says, to remove this privilege and through his wonderful love unite all of them and make spirituality accessible to all. And the last but not the least, he said he wanted to, the reason why he took for the first time perhaps in the history of spiritual lives of different prophets, he accepted a woman as his guru, and he even worshipped his own consort, spiritual consort, Sri Ma Sharda Devi. That's a very significant event. He wanted to re-establish the harm that was done by disrespecting Shakti, as he said. Because Shakti was held in dishonor, especially in India, we suffered everywhere in the world. So that was another important reason why Sri Ramakrishna incarnated. So this idea of Shakti worship, respect and reverence for women was another main sadhana or main Upāsanā, part of the general Upāsanā of the Ramakrishna order. That was demonstrated by none other than Sri Ramakrishna himself. That's another minor detail. Now quickly coming to this idea of mantra diksha. The diksha in general is an initiation because there are so many paths. So we need to focus on a particular path. As I said, all-inclusive nature is good. You try to accept everything as true. That doesn't mean you have to try everything. That's the tendency now. You take up something for the novelty of it. It doesn't work. You go to Vipassana, you go to this one, that one. You try everything. And the life is not so, life is very short. We can't be experimenting with all these things. So, this Upāsanā, spiritual initiation, is a path that we finally choose. After all this searching, we have to settle down. As famous parable of Sri Ramakrishna, in the gospel, somebody was digging a well, he digs 10 feet, and then somebody tells him, no, you go to some other place, you'll get water there. Then he goes on digging. After 4 or 5 attempts, a wise man comes, who is obviously the guru, and he says, you are foolish, you should have dug in one place. And all the energy that you expended, if you had spent here, you would have gone down 40 feet and you would have got water. That's the idea behind the spiritual initiation. It's not that we want to create an exclusive group saying they are initiated devotees or something like that. No. It's a very liberal, our Upāsanā is so liberal, it has scope for, it's all inclusive, but at the same time, there are certain things which have to be persistently practiced. Jeffrey Long will be speaking on persistence, you told me yesterday. So this holding on to one particular truth, making it a habit. See, habit is so important. Swami Vivekananda says our entire life is nothing but habits. We have created bad habits and we have to create good habits. And one good habit is this spiritual initiation, which enables you to create a new type of samskara by persistent and repeated practice of the same thing again and again. There's no monotony. They say in scriptures, there is no punaravritti dosha. Means repetition is not, it may be useless in our secular life, but even in our secular life, you have to repeatedly type to become a good typist. To do anything, you have to form repeated habits. So, Upāsanā is something, a mantra or a meditation technique that is given, a simple technique given by one of the gurus who belong to the authentic tradition of Ramakrishna, started by Ramakrishna himself. These are all mantras charged by practice of several upasakas. It's not that it is invented by the guru. It is come down, a mantra charged with spiritual power. We'll not go into the details. This whole mantra shastra, which is a great contribution of tantras. Tantras introduced this, and the synthesis of Vedanta, a little bit of yoga, Patanjali's yoga and tantras, is what gives its uniqueness to the Upāsanā as it is practiced in the Ramakrishna order. So, Diksha, the word Diksha itself, if you see Mahapurush Maharaj mentions this in Seekers of God, it's found everywhere. These small tidbits, important advices you'll get in different conversations of Brahmananda, Turyananji's letters, Swami Shardananji's letters. These are the source books. So he says, Diyate Vimalam Jnanam, Diksha, it's made of two. Diyate Vimalam Jnanam, that which gives you pure knowledge, not any secular knowledge. It has the capacity to give you spiritual knowledge. So diyate, di and ksha. Ksha has come from kshiyate. Kshiyate, it's not possible to get pure knowledge unless all your karma vasanas, your samskaras are destroyed. So Diksha has a double-pronged approach. The process of Diksha, the Upāsanā that we do, it not only gives us pure knowledge, it enables pure knowledge, but also destroys the karma vasanas. It has two tasks to perform. That is done in various ways, by visualization, the different techniques that are specific to each guru. More or less they are same, but it is better to learn this as a part of this spiritual initiation. In a general way, Diksha means that which removes all the karma vasanas, without which spiritual knowledge will not dawn. That's the main essence of Gayatri Mantra also. We pray to the Lord, we pray to the sun, who symbolizes light, to remove the darkness within our heart. Dhiyo yona prachodayata. Yesterday, there was an interesting reference to a poem by a Abhanga by Gyaneshwara. He says, you have to worship God with your buddhi. So that awakening of buddhi, it's not just worshipping with our hands, with our minds. There is a higher faculty which is the main purpose of Gayatri Mantra. Dhiyo yona prachodayata. So it's a constant prayer, as Maharaj said. Prayer can awaken this buddhi or subtle intellect, the Vijnanamaya kosha. We spoke about the koshas also. So it enables us, it enables this intuitive understanding which leads to supersensuous knowledge. Swamiji says in his Hinduism and Sri Ramakrishna, there are two types of knowledge. One is knowledge that it helps us in our secular work. Another knowledge which is supersensuous knowledge, which is known as atindriya or aparoksha knowledge, which has to be acquired through spiritual practices by the awakening of a particular faculty of the mind which is known as buddhi, which is higher than the manas or mind. Mind is a reactive mind, a reactive faculty of the mind. But an intuitive faculty which is known as buddhi, so that is awakened and that enables us to understand Vimalam Jnanam, the pure knowledge of the scriptures or pure knowledge of the spirit, of consciousness, that can be acquired. So Gyaneshwar here says you have to repeat the name of the Lord, not just by your lips, not just by mental repetition, but by constant repetition. You awaken a faculty just as by constant repetition of the Gayatri Mantra or any other mantra. Basically the purpose is same of any form of Diksha. To give you spiritual knowledge, how? By purification of the mind, for which no learning is required. That is why Sri Ramakrishna discarded formal learning, just to show that once your mind is purified through all these upasanas, the truth will spontaneously reveal itself in the purified mind. That is important. So Diksha not only gives you knowledge by removing the karma vasanas. The ignorance is a great obstacle. Avidya, as Shankaracharya says, that avidya, ajnana, which has to be removed only by upasana, and it has, finally to conclude, in the Ramakrishna tradition, as I said, we have a synthesis of different systems. The Nama Japa, it's a tradition in many other sampradayas also. You just repeat the name of Hari or repeat the name of Shiva or any other name. The name itself has an intrinsic value. Of course, Om, which is the Shabda Brahman or the representation, the highest impersonal representation of Brahman himself, is normally appended at the beginning of each mantra of any tradition. Om is universally accepted as the sound symbol of Brahman, Shabda Brahman. So that has great value. It is there in Gayatri Mantra, it is there in almost all the mantras. But certain things were added to quicken the impulse, to speeden, to reach this, the goal of mantra japa, something known which is a contribution of the Tantra, the Bija mantras, which according to the Tantras has a peculiar or a special faculty to reveal the true nature. Yesterday we spoke of the Rupa Dhyana, Guna Dhyana and Swarupa Dhyana. So what we visualize is not the real form of the Ishta. The Ishta Devata, each Ishta Devata is connected with a particular Bija, and that Bija has an intrinsic capacity. If it is repeated with devotion, in a prayerful attitude, with full of love, then it has a capacity to reveal the true nature of the deity more quickly. It's a discovery based on sadhakas who followed the path of tantras. The mantra shastra itself is a huge, big science, but it has been included. Everything Sri Ramakrishna has included in this very synthetic upasana, which is part of the authentic Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition. So as we go on repeating, and the real visualization or the real nature or swarupa of the deity, the Ishta Devata, is revealed. Now why there are so many bijas? If each bija represents one particular deity, but the uniqueness about Sri Ramakrishna is that he is Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. We chant this during our homas. We don't worship him. We can worship any god, any deity, in and through Sri Ramakrishna. Because he himself realized all the different divinities in his own lifetime by practicing them and realizing the highest truth through that particular path. So just as Satchidananda, I will to explain it through Sri Ramakrishna as example, Satchidananda himself is like a big ocean. And by the cooling effect of bhakti, he takes a particular form, which is a doorway to that infinite Satchidananda, which is the true nature of each of the Ishtas. They are just forms that enable us to reach that infinite. But Sri Ramakrishna also added, there are some sects which do not believe in the formless. They believe in the eternal form of Krishna or Vishnu in the eternal Vaikuntha. So that eternal Krishna form or Rama form, if you want to retain, Sri Ramakrishna says that is also possible, because there are some places in the ocean where the ice never melts. So you see how beautifully reconciled the formless, God with form, and all these things, if you study deeply, has been incorporated and will be revealed as we go on practicing our Upāsanā. So that is in brief. So I've run out of time, I've already exceeded. So this particular idea, all these great ideas of Upāsanā, which Sri Ramakrishna himself authenticated, not only by practicing it himself in his life, that is why we call him Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa, and also any of these bijas can be attached to his name. That is a great synthesis in the authentic spiritual tradition of the Ramakrishna order. All the bijas, because he has assumed so many forms, he is capable of assuming so form. That is why Swami Vivekananda said, I could not fathom the depth, the Sri Ramakrishna's mind. Sri Ramakrishna is like an ever-growing personality. You cannot grasp him. That's the basic idea which motivated Swami Vivekananda. In spite of all the, he did not wish to start a sect, another sect, but he knew we can unify all the sects in this non-sectarian sect, if you like to call it that way. This non-sectarian sect which not only inspires people, it makes a Hindu a better Hindu, a Christian a better Christian, and enables one to follow his own path. And in him we find all these paths, Sarva Dharma Swarupine. That is what Swami Vivekananda's famous hymn to Sri Ramakrishna. In him he combined all these paths. And that resulted in an authentic spiritual tradition, which is the Upāsanā of the Ramakrishna order. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Yeah, now we have a break. If anyone would like to have some tea or coffee, everything will be served in the basement. And then 11:15 to 12, we'll come back here and we'll have the panel discussion. And thank you, Maharaj. Another very nice session.